Roger's guidance was sometimes quite specific and quite direct, often was general. After I'd been in Elgar for some months, he wrote and said that he thought that I ought to have a village experience. And indeed, that was the origin of my arrangements made in Elgar to go to a Kashmir village and do a village study there, which has given dividends for all these 60 years because Kashmir has been in the headlines ever since, and I've been back and forth. I worked out arrangements with a man who was a professor at Elgar, but also director of education in the state of Kashmir. He and the officials in Kashmir worked out a village place and made available a teacher to be my guide. I went to this village, which was only about 15 miles from Srinagar, but where there was very little contact. There were no kind of traffic back and forth. There was no motor road into the village, no traders except those who came by little boats up the river there. This teacher spoke almost no English, but my Urdu by then was good enough so that I could talk with him in Urdu. So I worked out a questionnaire with 100 questions of all sorts to give to heads of family. We translated them into Urdu, and then he took them from there, and he would ask. I was trying to get a portrait of the village in that way. It was all pretty tentative at first, but they began to open up, and villagers would sit in on my questions to a particular family, and sometimes somebody who was sitting in would say, "No, that's not right, you know better than that," and so on. So we got at least some check on what they were saying to me. And with 100, we also got patterns. So I knew that the mosque had baths and would give hot water in the wintertime for these people to have occasional baths. I knew what their houses were built of, and I learned how Indian villagers, or at least Kashmir villagers, live. I got a sense, which lasted me through the years, of what rural life in India is like. I was coming home to marry Mildred, and I got a cable from Roger saying, "Go to Manila as fast as possible," which was a surprise. He didn't say why. The phone rang in my hotel room at one point, and someone said, "Is your name Talbot?" "Yes." "Have you just come from India?" "Yes." "Why haven't you been to see us?" I said, "Who are you?" And they said, "16th Naval District." Well, I said, "Why in the world should I come to see you?" I'd never had any connection with the Navy at all in any country. My ROTC had been Army. And this surprised the man at the other end of the line. He said, "But we have a message from the Navy Department here saying you're coming from India and we should expedite your application to be commissioned." I said, "I better come see you." So I went down, and he showed me the letter. Sure enough, there it was. And so I cabled Rogers and said, "The Navy has contacted me and wants me to sign up, sort of what next?" And Rogers sent a classic response, "The choice is yours," which of course meant I had no choice at all. Then I telephoned Mildred and said, "I'm not coming home." This was not a happy conversation at all. Yeah. So that was in the summer of '41. And I went to Bombay. Well, it was later than that by then because I had 6 weeks training in Singapore. I was supposed to learn all about the Navy in 6 weeks. And then went to Bombay to open a naval office. So we Of course, she couldn't let me know she was coming, but she wrote a letter from Chicago saying, "Great news, I've just signed on with the American Red Cross, and I'm going to be sent overseas." And then an identical letter the following week from Washington, where she was doing her all 5 days of training or whatever it was. And then a letter from San Francisco. By that time, I was the U.S. Naval Liaison Officer, Bombay. And I haven't told that part of the story yet. We'll come back to it. And I was in charge of receiving American ships with their loads, and I got information. Here was a ship, the Ile-de-France, which was carrying 5,000 men and 60 women. And so I figured that that must be the ship she was on. And when she arrived, I had my boat, and I went out and I boarded the ship. Sure enough, she was there. Well, for the next 7 months, when she was first posted in Karachi, then in New Delhi, and finally Calcutta, I would try to get to her when I could, and that wasn't easy because I was under military control. But we did have long weekend talks sometimes. And finally one night in Calcutta, we don't know why we said it, but we said, "Look, we have to make a decision tonight." Well, we were in India. In India, people get married without knowing each other. And they have pretty good marriages. We can't remember, we couldn't ever remember exactly why we said what we did, but we said that night that we would get married, and if we were going to get married, we would stay married. The office in Bombay told me that the U.S. Navy had been asked by the British Admiralty to remove me from India because of my unfortunate views and contacts. Well, that again goes back. I had indeed stayed in contact with nationalists, including the Nehru family, Nehru's younger sister who lived in Bombay. And I'd been in 42 at one of their meetings when the husband had said that they were going to be arrested, the men were going to be arrested that night. I look after his wife and their 2 boys. I said, sure. Or look in on them at least from time to time. It turned out that that and 2 or 3 other incidents, also involving the Nehru family, his elder sister, when I was handling these American ships and I was able to put anybody aboard going back home. And so we sent oil company executives and missionaries and all sorts of people. And the Nehru sister said that she was having great trouble getting her 2 daughters to the U.S. where they were admitted to college. Could I do anything? Well, I said I had this arrangement, and the next time a ship came in, I'd let them know, so I did. We put them aboard, they came to the U.S., they went to college. And only after this all came out did I discover that the British had put a block on the travel of members of that family out of India. And they had informed every travel agent and every shipping company not to give permission. Well, of course, I wasn't a travel agent, and I wasn't really a shipping company person. I'd never heard of this. But the British Admiralty asked that I be sent out.